Plywood sucks to store. So do clamps. And scraps. So when I decided to build a plywood storage cart, I wanted it to contain some of the other chaos pits in my shop too. So I designed one that would. And since I liked the finished product so much, I put together detailed plans for the project and have them available on my Etsy store so you can make one for your shop. But if you're just here for the build, here's how it all came together. Big box store lumber gets a bad rap, often rightly so, but if you dig a bit, there are plenty of straight enough boards for a project like this. Add in some leftover plywood sheets from my dad's garage, and this is already a pretty cheap build. I started by cutting all the parts to rough size on the miter saw, working off of a detailed cut list. I love designing in Shaper 3D, but I do wish it could automate those cut lists for you. Is there any joinery faster than pocket holes? For shop projects, there's nothing better. Right angle clamps make quick work of aligning these boards before you screw them together. Then I added 6 casters to the bottom. Just make sure that the caster plates span the pocket hole butt joint. That helps reinforce it since this baby's going to hold a lot of weight. Next, I used my Wen track saw, linked in the description, to cut a piece of plywood down to 32 inches wide and 8 feet long to sit on that base. A few screws and gravity hold it in place nicely. Now, for the actual storage part. On the plywood side, I wanted the support wall at 5 degrees to keep the sheets nearly vertical without tipping. The other wall is 90 degrees for additional storage. So I set my miter saw to 5 degrees and cut bevels on both ends of the plywood side 2x4 supports, making them 46 and 1/8 inches. I cut the same 5-degree bevel on the end of all the shelf brackets. Cutting these all at once means I don't have to match that setting later. Then I switched back to 90 degrees and cut the back wall 2x4s to 46 inches. Assembly is easier with a template, but to make that template, I first needed the initial support assembly. Right angle clamps make this easy. Only install the top shelf bracket at this point, cut to final length on the miter saw. We'll add the lower one later. Once the first support assembly is assembled, I laid it on the base, then CA glued some small scraps to the inside edges, tight to the frame. Then I dropped in the parts for the next leg and glued and screwed them together. Identical parts, quick and easy. Just double check that they're actually identical by standing them up next to each other and making sure the boards line up, or as close as the big box lumber will let you. Once the legs are done, add pocket holes to the straight back leg. If your jig can add them to the angled ones too, go for it. Mine can't. Placement of the support assemblies depends on what you want to do on the back of the rack. I placed the straight legs 6.5 inches from the edge of the base. That gives me room for parallel clamps and scrap bins. Then I made sure the angled front legs were square and equally spaced and screwed them down too. Then I cut some spacers to bridge the gaps between the legs using scrap 3/4 inch plywood. I beveled the front ones at 5 degrees just to make them sit flush with the top. These went in with, pocket screws. Shelves next, more scrap plywood cut down with the track saw or table saw. Finally, I screwed 2 plywood sheets to the support assemblies to form the front and back walls. The only trick here is clamping the bottom of the sheet so it doesn't kick out while fastening. Last, just for a bit of security, I glued and screwed a small strip to the outside edge of the plywood side to keep the sheets from sliding off. And that's the main build. From here, it's all about adding custom storage on the flat wall. I added cutting board scrap bins, hangers for my F and one-handed clamps, and a small rack for my parallel clamps. More detailed instructions for these are in the official plans on Etsy, but the key is to customize this space for your needs. If you're not sure where to start, consider a French cleat section for flexibility. Then just load it up. With 6 2-inch rubber casters linked below, I can move it around easily. That mobility makes loading and unloading the plywood way easier. And I'm still finding things to hang on the wall. 3M work tunes, safety glasses, dust masks, my apron. I even hang my Bluetooth speaker here so it doesn't rattle off my work table anymore. So if your shop's drowning in plywood and clamps like mine was, set aside a weekend and build this storage rack. You'll wonder how you worked without it.